Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. The first round at Masters Bangkok has concluded. 4 matches have happened so far and 4 massive results in favour of the first seeds, but the second round games have now been determined. The elimination games if you're 0-1, and the potential get all the way through to the playoffs guaranteed games if you are currently 1-0. Lots of other updates on the evening as well, especially from Leo Farrier and Riot, suggesting the response to what we saw earlier today with Safe and his frustration around the mouse drama currently unfolding in Bangkok. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Another banger Durka picture to start off the day. Potentially plenty more where that came from over the coming days. But firstly, we've got to get into this because this afternoon it was confirmed the stage 1 draw for EMEA. Wow, look at these groups. Isn't that a surprise? Oh yeah, they got leaked the other day. So it's just a bit of a clown show, isn't it, really? Because in the other regions, mostly anyway, as soon as the kickoff ended, it was like, okay, hey, here are the groups for the season. And we saw it in the Pacific, we saw it in the Americas happen immediately afterwards. Whereas in EMEA, they said, oh no, we're going to wait for some reason, and then we're going to do an announcement show later in the year. So a few weeks later, they did this announcement, and these groups were leaked a couple of days ago. These exact groups, in this exact order as well. Like, this, as I say, may feel very familiar for you, because we literally discussed these groups the other day and said our Group A was pretty stacked, which it is. I mean, look, Vitality, Fnatic, Heretics, then Na'Vi, Giant X, and Apex all in the same group. That is a very stacked group. Now, this is based off their performance and placings at the kickoff, so sure, I understand it, but I'm still not sure it feels totally balanced to me. That's not the issue here, though, really. The issue is that these groups were known 2 days ago. They were leaked behind the scenes. So, you know, how can we be confident as fans that the process of determining these groups is totally fair and reasonable and rigorous? It's difficult to say, isn't it, right? Because, you know, the groups were leaked a couple of days ago, the draw show was clearly pre-recorded, it's not really a great sign. It just looks a bit amateurish. I think that's the bottom line. It may not be the biggest deal, but it just doesn't quite send the message to me of a serious high-level esports league, which this is, and this certainly should be. And the other regions, they did it okay. EMEA, for some reason, not exactly the same story. The other update that we saw, even Durka actually, I didn't even notice this was in the replies, here saying very balanced. So, you know, obviously tongue-in-cheek there. We know that the Finnish tend to be somewhat, let's say, sarcastic when the time comes. Now, Talon, they made a big confirmation this morning as well. Pretty much just as I uploaded this morning's video, this was obviously locked in, basically, that Talon have confirmed that Ban and Governor are going to be gone, right? We saw this rumour the other day. I think Governor, like, yeah, I understand why they're potentially doing this, making the changes. Their roster hasn't had the success that they wanted. There were some rumours that their replacement players might even be based to some degree in Japan. I liked both of these players. I think they both had their moments. Ban, to me, was the player with the slightly greater upside, so I'm a little surprised they've actually got rid of him, to be fair, but yeah, they're going to move on from both of these players going forwards, and, well, T1 are going to have to bounce back from this, because, of course, T1, Talon, they were at least in the mix, both of those teams, for qualifying for Bangkok. In the end, T1 made it, Gen.G didn't make it. They were the team, I believe, that eliminated Talon in the losers semi-finals, but honestly, these opening round games have had a very similar story. It's been the second seed from the various region, puts up a fight, shows a bit of promise, but the first seed fundamentally bowls them over. And that's what we saw again. This, though, to me, was a particularly telling series. You know that I like the T1 team. I did have my concerns about T1 coming to LAN, how they would deliver internationally. And, you know, I wasn't particularly confident they were going to make a great deep run of the tournament. But I still do think they're a pretty damn good team. And for Vitality to come in and really handle business without any difficulty today was very impressive. I mean, Trex, Les, Durka, Kicks, all substantially in the positive. The fracture was 13-10 to Vitality. There was that big round, of course, where Durka secured the ace. That was big on that attacking round to get it to 4-4. They then went up 5-4, but really it was their defensive side where they pulled away in the game. And then the bind was 13-9. So It's not like it was absolutely crushing, but it was still pretty competent from Vitality. They never looked in particular danger of losing the series. And Carpe with a particularly rough final map here on the Bind. And that was a quick 2-0. And the game later in the day, though, was even faster. Substantially so, actually. Look, G2 were the favourites here. They were my favourites for the entire tournament. I said that if they played as they did during the kickoff in the Americas, no doubt, in my opinion, they'll win this tournament. Vitality, though, and maybe some others, could put a spanner in the works. We'll certainly discuss Edward Gaming, because Trace Esports, they kind of got slapped around this series. It wasn't really close. Maybe during the game one they showed, obviously early on in that game, going up 2-0, going up, 4-3. It was okay, but after that it all kind of fell apart and the Abyss was absolutely crushing. I mean, Leaf was 16-4 in the Chamber. Love to see Chamber back in the meta. Not in the meta exactly, but he's viable, he's usable sometimes, and cool to see Leaf use him. So yeah, Trace Esports go down, G2 advance in emphatic fashion, it's got to be said. This, for example, was Leaf's play at the end of the first map on of course, the Lotus here to close out this game one. Kai had nothing he could do about it, and it was quickly game over, 12-8 on the Lotus. G2 advance onto the map 2, and then they close out the series shortly after that. And as Durka says, 2-0 versus T1. I was buzzing about that. So great result for Vitality. They continue to look particularly scary. I think this was the team that many of us had the most questions about going into the season. When you put together a roster with this much talent on the Vitality team, you always wonder how it's actually going to work in reality. I think G2, there's no doubt that what we've seen from their team last season, the progression that they've made, but also Trent really performing again. I mean, I remember the Trent of the Guards days where he was absolutely on fire. And when they came into the league, he wasn't lackluster, but he wasn't quite the player that I thought that he might be. Now he seems like he's back there, Trent, so pretty scary for the opposition. Trace Esports, nothing they could do about that. We've seen this clip, we've seen this tweet, and well, we've now seen this one between Durka and Boaster. What I did want to get into, though, was this from Safe, of course, Durka's teammate on Vitality. We saw this earlier today. I'm doing a second video, by the way, this evening because, well, I had the time to do it. We had lots to discuss from the day. Tomorrow, I may do a video in the morning, but probably not. I'll try and do it again in the afternoon or something. That might be the plan after the matches concludes, because it's a weekend. Hopefully I'll be able to fit it in. But anyway, if you guys saw today's video from earlier, there was a bit of drama where Kang had to switch to a wired mouse from a wireless one because it was causing serious issues. And there was a general feeling here from Safe and others that this is pretty unacceptable. Riot need to substantially level up their game. Now, Leah Farrier actually responded to this just a couple of hours ago and says this: as planned, we started deploying the new global PC fleet at Masters Bangkok, right? So TENS has been very vocal about this now when he was competing for years on the PCs being out of date. Finally this year, they're rolling them out. They're rolling out the new upgraded versions. All stage and ready rooms, PCs, they're brand new. The entire fleet, including practice rooms, will be live later this year. We are aware of issues with wireless mouses and we are triaging it. It has nothing to do with the PCs, but with the amount of tech on stage. The cameras, the mics, the headset, the lights, and how that affects the signals. Playing wired solves the problem, but we want pros to play however they want. There's no question that wireless is better for them, and most pros prefer that. We are on it. So very interesting information really from Leo, saying that it's not the PCs, it's not even the mice, it's more so about all of the equipment. And this was the thing back in the day in the Call of Duty world. It was known that players walking around, well, they were trying to play with Bluetooth controllers, and loads of fans walking around behind them with Bluetooth on their phones was messing up the signal, right? Bluetooth enabled on the phones. It was causing all sorts of issues for the players, and they had to use a workaround. They used to use what's called a Cronus Max, where they would be able to plug the controller directly into the PlayStation, basically. So a bit of hardware they could use to get around some of the issues here. And it's kind of a similar thing where they can plug the mouse in and play wired, and that solves the issues. But it's a problem that they're going to have to work on. Now, rumor has it, we'll get to this one in a second, that the problem is basically fully resolved when the polling rate is reduced. So the polling rate is, if you think of hertz on a monitor, you might have a 144 hertz monitor like I do, you might have a 240 hertz monitor or even beyond, right? That is the amount of times it refreshes per second. Now, the mouse can send a signal to the computer at a certain polling rate, a certain number of times per second, and it can do this very, very frequently indeed. There was talk earlier today that if they use a polling rate of 2000 hertz, 2000 updates per second, then that will cause problems in the PC. Now, look, let's be honest, 2000s versus 1000, for example, is a substantial change. Is it something you're massively going to notice? Yeah, maybe as a pro. But is it something that is completely game-changing, like plugging in the wired and the feeling that that is, which is very different to a wireless mouse? Maybe not. So Chris basically says that just lower the polling rate down and get used to the new polling rate, and if it's below like 1000 or whatever, then it doesn't really cause an issue. Apparently there was the same issue at the CS2 major in China with all the tech that was introduced around the PC. And now they came to a conclusion which was maybe not optimal, but a conclusion better than what they had previously done. Now, this tweet from, of course, Zell says, who lost with Sentinels the other day. Pretty funny reply that he got here to his story. But what maybe won't be funny for Sentinels, or will be depending on your perspective, is this matchup they have in the losers bracket. These are the second round games. So the upper side begins in about 13-14 hours time. Edward G2, banger on paper. I mean, all of these series are great, I'd say. I like the way that this has been drawn. Edward G2, I think, is going to be quite telling, though, because Edward, of course, had a phenomenal result against Team Liquid to get through to the upper side. They're the world champions. G2, though, are currently looking like the best team in the game. So who's actually the best team in the game? How's, Kang going to face with the G2 guys? Extremely exciting series there. DRX Vitality is also very interesting, right? Because DRX, again, they've started the tournament so well. They usually do. Doesn't always continue that way. If I had to predict, I'm taking G2, I'm taking Vitality, but I'm taking them in pretty close fought affairs. The loser side, though, is interesting, because if you lose this, you're out, right? 0-2, you are done from the tournament. T1 played Trace Esports, so, T1 will be confident they can take out the second Chinese seed, but it's the Team Liquid Sentinels game, I think, that's really catching most attention here, right? Because Team Liquid, they lost to Edward in the fashion that they did, and they were the number 2 seed from the European region, but they were very close to being the number 1 seed. They went up 2-0 in Vitality in the finals, and then they got reverse swept. Sentinels will try their very best to make a serious run this tournament, but beating Team Liquid is going to be no easy feat, I wouldn't say, especially as it stands. So that could be a banger one on paper as well. I think I would pick Sentinels and T1 to survive, but it's going to be very much far from a foregone conclusion here. And after that, of course, the 2 winners, they advance to the playoffs, the 2 losers, they go home, and then they play the deciding Swiss stage rounds in terms of who's going to get to the playoffs. And that's how it looks right now. Back underway tomorrow morning at my time. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.